All right, big early season matchup in the Eastern Conference here Tuesday night. The first place Cavaliers, the second place Boston Celtics, also with some NBA Cup implications. So this is a big one, guys. And for that, we've brought in Kevin Lynch from The Block, The Shot, The Stop podcast, part of the Blue Wire family, our brother over at Blue Wire. Kevin, appreciate you being here, man.
Will, thanks, man. Great to be here. Happy to talk to you guys about this game.
Hell yeah, it's going to be an exciting one, man. And obviously right now, so we're recording this, just full disclosure, we're recording this on Sunday afternoon. As of right now, Cavs 14-0. They do play the Hornets later tonight, so should be 15-0. You never know. Could be a trap game. So we'll have to see if it will be the Celtics going to try to snap that early season Cavaliers win streak. But, Kev, there's no doubt they've been electric. First in offensive rating, seventh in defensive rating, second in net rating. So let me ask you this, because the last 2 years that they've had Donovan Mitchell, I've been really high on the Cavs as, man, this is going to be a team to watch out for.
Yeah.
And they haven't necessarily underperformed, but they've been whelming, right? Not underwhelming, but they've been whelming, right? I don't really know how else to put it. So finally this year is like, you know what? They're coming back. They're the same team. I'm not getting got again. This team's going to be 4th, 5th, 6th in the East. They'll be good, but they're not going to be anything special. And so far, I'm eating all that crow right now because this has just been a huge difference in this Cavaliers team. So aside from health, what's the biggest difference between this year's team with the same core and what we've seen the past 2 seasons?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll say it's not just you. Everyone had that mindset. The Cavs, they're bringing back the exact same team, expect the exact same result, right? And so that's a big thing we talked about even in our preseason podcast, that this team didn't stay the same. They just didn't go out and make a bunch of panic moves to bring in new players, because that's kind of the move in the NBA, right? What they did is they went out and brought in a coach that they were confident in could build a scheme to really maximize the guys on their team. And with Kenny Atkinson. So I definitely think Kenny is a culture setter, as a scheme, is making a scheme around the team that fits. I think that was a really big thing. And the thing Kenny did the most is he leaned into the Cavs' strengths, opposed to always trying to match up with other teams, such as the Celtics. Like, it's pretty well known the Cavs don't have the wings that the Celtics do, and trying to like compensate for that. Instead, he's like, this is our team. It's super talented. Let's do what we do best and worry a little bit less about what our opponents are doing.
One stat that I found really surprising when I was just like doing a little bit of research for the pod, because I haven't watched much Cavs. I've kind of just been tuning in, here or there to a quarter if I see there was like a fun game that they played in. Ty Jerome. Yeah. So he's playing 16 minutes a game. He's actually leading the league in pick and roll efficiency this year, 1.39 points per possession. How important has he been to the team, having a reliable backup point guard?
He's been a revelation. He started becoming a cult hero about game 8 or 9 of the year, to the point we actually did a social media, contest to come up with a nickname for him. And we call him TJ Maxx now, because he brings a different value every day.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I know. I love it. And we didn't come up with it. One of our listeners did and thought it was fantastic. But he has been a revelation, because the whole thing that came in, who's going to play point guard when Garland sits? Are they going to have Mitchell, like, kind of put that wear and tear on Mitchell to play point guard? Like, how are they going to manage those guys' minutes? Having them both had some injury concerns in the past, and Ty Jerome coming in consistently for 12 to 15 minutes a game, giving them everything they need, really without a fall off. He's been seamless. And I think you mentioned the pick and roll. I think that's what he does best. And the Cavs have a couple of big guys who are about as good or complementary of pick and roll partners as you can get in the league. And yeah, Ty has been a huge contributor for the Cavs this year.
So you mentioned the wings earlier, Kevin, and this, even when I was big on the Cavs and just that core 4, right? The talent level, and that's kind of what the Celtics' strength has been since last year when they added Holiday and Porzingis. It's like, okay, here's our top 6. Good luck finding another top 6 that can match up talent-wise with what we have. Right. And, especially with Mobley being so young, it was kind of projecting a little bit. And Garland's still young too, especially when you think back to when Mitchell got there. And it was like, yeah, man, that top 4, it's like 4, maybe top 40 guys in the league. Yeah. Like, that's really impressive. But the area that always stood out to me as kind of a weak spot was, how do you connect the front court and the back court, which have their own, issues, undersized back court, front court with not really a lot of shooting. How do you connect on the wing? So that was always the part that held me back from being like, this is a team that can go to that, beyond just being a top 6 regular season team, but can be conference finals, NBA finals type of team. And so, this year you mentioned this is still the same team. This is still basically the same team. Ty Jerome's a little bit of a new wrinkle, but Dean Wade, who has killed the Celtics in the past, George Niang, Isaac Okoro, give me some insights, because like Greg said, I've tried to check in on the Cavs, but you guys have been killing people. And so every time I try to check in on a game, I'm kind of flipping around on League Pass. I go to check in the game, and it's a blowout. By the time I get there, the Bulls game the other night was probably the best example. I think it was 123 to 119. And then all of a sudden, I was watching, maybe it's like a crazy Pistons ending or something, and somehow you guys won by 20 points when that score that I just gave you was like 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. Like, it doesn't even make sense how that happened. So going back to the Wings here, give me the inside scoop. What's going on with this Wade, Niang, Okoro group? Is this legit? Is this sustainable? Are they going to be enough to get you guys to that next level?
I mean, the answer is we'll see, but so far, yes. The thing about the team coming into the season, the one theme we kept saying is they have a lot of talent, but can the talent be complementary of one another? Because a lot of teams wouldn't want to play an Allen and a Mobley both at the same time, or play 2 small guards and Garland and Mitchell, and not even talking about the rest of the guys that you were. And they found a way to be complementary to where, of all those role guys you were saying, we say 2 role guys have an excellent game every night. You don't know which 2 it's going to be, but like Karis LeVert may be, maybe early season 6th man of the year. Ty Jerome, like you said, has been a revelation. Sam Merrill's had huge moments. Georges Niang Friday night, when they're missing Mobley, it was the first game of the year they were missing one of their big 4, was phenomenal. Best game I've ever seen him play. And so I think more than anything, the team just feeds off of each other so well. The one stat, I know you guys were throwing out a few stats. The stat I love the most is that they lead the league in assist ratio, like the amount of assists per field goals. And when you watch them, it makes total sense. They have the best ball movement of any Cavs team I've ever seen. And honestly, reminds me, it's super ambitious compliment, but like the early 2000 Spurs, when they had Ginobili and Parker and the ball was just moving around. I would watch clips of them. They passed the ball 8 or 9 times without dribbling. And so that is the biggest thing. I mean, as you said, with anybody in the NBA, it's going to be health. It's going to be, how well these kind of components continue to complement each other. What happens to the rotation when Max Strus comes back? But so far so good. And like, it seems almost like everybody's having a career year at the same time.
Yeah, and it seems like Atkinson's making a big difference for the team too, right? I know that you guys were kind of notoriously a slow-paced team in years past, and this year I believe you're top 10 team in pace this year. One thing that really stood out to me, just because if people forgot, the Celtics and Cavs played in the playoffs last year. It was a very kind of boring series, but it happened. It was there. Evan Mobley started to have a little bit of success in those games where Will and I were big Mobley guys. We've seen flashes out of him. It seems like, just box score watching and whatnot, that Mobley's making a little bit of a mini leap. One stat I like out of Mobley is that they're seemingly putting the ball in his hands a little bit more as a creator. So his drives per game are 7.8 drives per game this year. Previous high was 4.7 last year. So he's getting about 3 more drives per game. So tell us a little bit about Evan Mobley and his development.
Yeah, I think it's as much confidence as anything. And I don't know if that's a credit to the coaching staff or just the development in the offseason, but like, you see a different Evan Mobley as far as like confidence on things, just like you said, driving to the baskets, even posting guys up defensively, even like he's taken a leap defensively to where I think he's like 2nd in odds for defensive player of the year right now, if I remember correctly. So that's really I mean, with young guys, you're always going to see a leap around this time, year 3, year 4, if they're going to, move on to stardom. And that's the biggest thing I see with him is the confidence to take the ball to the basket, the confidence to take jump shots. He hasn't had the prettiest jump shot in the world, but he's been effective enough that it opens up the rest of his game. And the biggest thing with Evan will be if, one, obviously stay healthy because he had some injury stuff last year. But 2, if he just continues to add little things to his game, like he has to start this year, I think there's even more he could do from the post. He could probably become a little bit better jump shooter, things like that. But yeah, I think he's on a pretty substantial upward trajectory right now.
Who do you think is having a bigger leap this year, him or Garland? Or do you think Garland is just he's just Garland, but we forgot that he's Darius Garland because he had the injuries last year. And, Garland, you think back to that Cavs team pre-Donovan Mitchell, right? And it was, holy shit, look at this. We got Garland and Mobley that we're starting to – I think you guys were like the 7th seed, but then lost in the play-in, but Garland had 40 and stuff like that. Yeah. And so that's why I'm even tentative to call it a leap from Garland. I think it's just more a reminder of who Darius Garland is. But which out of those two, if you had to pick, is have more driving impact towards the early season success?
Yeah, I think you said it just right. I think Mobley's taking the leap, and Garland's kind of remind you who he was. He was an all-star 2 years ago, and then last year just kind of had the season from hell. He broke his jaw. He tried to play through it. He couldn't
against the Celtics, right? That was off of Porzingis's. I think it was like off of Porzingis's hip, but it was his face because of Porzingis being 7'3".
Yeah, exactly. He was on a liquid diet, but trying to play basketball professionally at the same time. Not a great combination, and so. I think, and the biggest thing about Darius is you see he's just playing. He's having so much fun. It's like the whole John Madden, Brett Favre is just having fun out there. But he really is like smiling. He's so you can see how bad last year was for him and how much he's enjoying his individual success, the team success, just being able to be healthy and being back to who he is. And man, like for their lack of size, the backcourt of him and Mitchell, I don't know if there's a quicker one in the entire league because those guys just continually blow by other teams and then create offensive opportunities from that.
How do you expect the game to go?
That's a great question. The problem is I don't know. I always lean Boston until the Cavs, prove us otherwise. If I'm being totally honest, because I like Boston handled the Cavs pretty well in the playoffs last year. No doubt about that. They don't have a great matchup for the wings and Tatum and Brown. Mobley has started to guard some of those type of guys to pretty good success, but I still don't know if that's an advantageous matchup for the Cavs. So, I actually expect it to be a super close game with a slight edge to Boston. Maybe Boston pulls one out, an under 10-point victory.
I have a quick, I know we're about to do our appearance on your podcast.
Yeah.
But one question I have for you. So the Celtics really like to run a Jason Tatum and Derek White 2-man game. It can be inverted or it can be traditional. How do you foresee the Cavs guarding that?
That is one of the keys to the game because the Cavs, as you said, they're 7th in defensive rating. They've been much better defensively than we thought, and a lot of it's just buy-in and effort, as well as having Allen and Mobley inside protecting the rim. That is going to be a challenge. If they're going to try and put Garland and or Mitchell in pick and rolls that involve Tatum and get those guys matched up to Tatum, which is going to be a hard challenge. The one thing that the Celtics have started to do the last few games, they've actually started to go zone with quite a bit of success. So I wouldn't be shocked if they threw a zone at the Celtics. You're playing with fire with the way the Celtics shoot threes, but at least to mix it up if they really are trying to force feed that Tatum matchup against Mitchell or Garland.
Is that with Mobley at the top?
2 years ago, that would have broken the Celtics' brain if you threw a zone at him. Definitely a spot the Celtics have improved over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, but to answer your question, right, more traditional with the two, like a traditional 2-3 with the guards up top. But that could be a wrinkle. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a wrinkle where Mobley's so athletic they could, put him at the top of a key in the zone. That might be something you see this season.
Well, I'm very excited for this here. Big early season matchup. Celtics, Cavs, also NBA Cup matchup. So NBA Cup implications here. Celtics need this one to basically stay alive after they lost to the Hawks last week in their first NBA Cup game. So we will have to check in on that one here. But Kev, appreciate you stopping by here, man. We're going to do a little home and home on your podcast here. So we're going to swing over and do that. But appreciate you joining us here on Green with Envy.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good time.
All right.